Game Soup. It's a game design podcast where Fridays in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Chloe Montgomery, and I'm joined by... Oh god, I should have thought of a stinger.
Personally, I do think you should maybe find one to just stick with.
Well,
I feel like you add so much more work to yourself by going every week I'm going to come up with a new non sequitur to introduce my co-host. I shouldn't be talking, I've not been introduced yet.
Who am I speaking to?
No, we can't confirm that until I'm introduced.
Oh, I need to give you a title, okay. Oh, Jesus.
Or just say my name, and I shall appear.
No, you need to say your own name.
Oh yeah, I say my own name, you just cue me up.
Yeah.
You're joined by your co-host, Kayla Dice.
Thank you. Can you tell we've had a week off?
We have had a week off. The last episode, we talked about how for 50, we were going to do a live stream. We've not done a live stream for 50, because Chloe ended up sick. So we're going to do a live stream at 52, which will technically be like a year of game soup. She bought a can of tinned soup when we started episodes. It probably is still good now because, tinned food keeps for a long time. It's kind of the whole point of it. Of course, if you made fresh soup during the first episode of Game Soup...
Yeah, that's long
that
gone.
would not be safe now.
Unless you froze it, then it's maybe got frostbite.
Yeah, I do think there is a limit even to freezing. I need to defrost my freezer soon. That's irrelevant. I went down the hill yesterday, as I want to do, and delivered the vast majority of Psycho Dungeon physical copies to the kind person at the post office, and they'll all be in motion. If you're in the UK, you very plausibly have your Psycho Dungeon already by the time this is out. If you're in another country, check the Royal Mail International Standard delivery times and make an estimation of your mum.
She's not your postal...
I'm not a
so
postman,
what have you been up to this last week?
though I am postman.
That's why I said postal
Have I been
worker.
what? I know, no, I was doing a joke about how postman...
Oh, you're doing a
after.
funny transgender joke. Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe even like a sort of, the next step in human evolution. A too hot for TV transsexual.
So this last week,
You asked me
I've
a
been
question.
sick. I've been doing not much. I played a game of City of Mist last night, so I have an idea for a game based on that. But we'll go into that in a minute. What have you been up to this last week?
Last week, I did Psycho Dungeon fulfillment. I've been posting more stuff about Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, which included the entire project getting declared not safe for work. Which I need to figure out what to do about that. What's the charge? Stabbing an ex? A succulent trans femme ex?
Was this by Kickstarter or Backakit or whatever?
Backakit on account... I mean, it would be weird if Kickstarter declared it not safe for work, given it's not on their platform. But yeah, they've said because of the realistic depictions of violence and blood, it's not safe for work. I can't use the cover as, like, the main image of the campaign, because it would show up on their site without warning. And the big thing I have uncertain is whether this means, like, I won't be able to access ads. I'm not sure on that, genuinely. So that's the thing I've emailed about and I'm waiting to find out for. But
oops.
That aside, what else have I been up to? I went to an old house with my boy.
Like, to do urban exploration, or...?
No, like a National Trust old house.
Oh, okay.
Not like a
I broke into a
old
house I used to live in.
No, I don't know if I don't think anywhere I've described would be old house. It would just be former house. But I did have a moment when we walked in, there was loads of bricks at the side, and my boyfriend used to be an archaeologist, as a relevant fact here. And he just went, "Ooh, bricks!" as he walked over to them.
He's so funny.
So yeah, have I been up to much else? I've had a lot of pain still. I'm being discriminated against by the government. And yeah,
Fun.
I might have my nose busted open during the TDL2 crowdfunding campaign. So I've got loads going on.
Is that part of the crowdfunding campaign, or a separate thing? If we get to £10,000, somebody gets to punch me in the nose.
No. No, that's a separate thing that just might happen during what is increasingly stepping up to be the most hectic month.
Well,
Not
you know
this
how
month.
you can
That'll be
support
mostly next
Kayla
month.
through a very stressful month.
You can give Kayla money.
Yeah. Her PayPal is no.
No, there's a campaign. What are you doing for me right now? Whose side are you on?
I'm hosting a podcast with you where you get to advertise your product.
And now telling people about PayPal? I don't need any PayPal here. Are you with the DWP? Is this what's going on here?
It's been a sting operation this whole year of a podcast. We've got
Screwed
you on,
over.
got you on
Stabbed
audio.
at the back by every direction. I also have a game idea because I finished playing Cassette Beasts. I played, I think, virtually all of that in the unexpected break we had.
Nice. I understand it's like Pokemon, but good.
Yeah, it's like Pokemon. It's interesting in places where it's not. Like, you don't actually... It's not a monster tamer game. It
Yeah, you
just
turn into
works
them.
like one. Yeah, because it's just you're recording them and transforming into them, which is interesting. Like, it adds an interesting dimension to the sort of, like, gotta catch 'em all thing. It's fun in a lot of places. I sometimes found it in certain places like this bit doesn't fit, but...
I played
Yeah.
a few
Do you
hours
wanna
of
do
it because
your
it was
idea
on
first
Game
or my
Pass,
idea first?
and
What's
I'm
that
kind
say?
of I'm in cassette beast mode now. I'm sorry. I played a few hours of it on Game Pass when we had the Xbox One plugged in, and I thought it was fun. I didn't like that you had to keep going back to the town. I liked
to swap out people.
Yeah. And I liked the big boss monsters being kind of non-Euclidean weird things.
There's loads of stuff in it where I just really, like, love the decision it made. I like that, every monster is given a different non-pixel art style to represent the fact that they're, like, genuinely fucked up to look at. And find a
I
lot
only
of
saw
the
the
story
first one,
stuff.
so there you go.
Oh yeah, they're all completely different. So, like, the first one is that, but then there's one where it's like, oh, this person is in, like, stop motion animation, or
That's
this
cool.
person is a 3D puppet, or other stuff. And a lot of those individual boss monsters are fun. The creature design is cool. I think, like, your supporting characters are interesting, and they're, like, fun to get to know, but also in a way that comes to where I end up, like, finding the ending very flat, because it's like, oh, you're all stuck on this, like, weird mashup world, and you're nominally trying to get home, but you also can romance a companion, but at the end it's like, well, they go back to their world, and it's like, yeah, this feels a bit unengaging as an ending, because, like, my character is such a blank slate that in spite of the fact that, like, yeah, I'm the one who's really driven to, like, find the way out of here, it doesn't mean anything because I don't even know what world they're from. This is maybe a problem I sometimes have with computer RPGs, where I think some people go into them and go like, oh, my character is me. And I've never gone, my character is me, even when I've given them my name or whatever.
Yeah.
I think of them as a character, and so if I don't have much to hook onto... This is going to sound weird. I think it would be fine if you couldn't romance them. It's more the thing. It's weird that you can romance them, but that has no consequences for any of the, like, decisions you make about, like, leaving a world behind and never seeing each other again.
Yeah, if it was like you could go with them or something, that would be fun. I guess being able to romance NPCs and party members is... Persona has done so much damage, but also it's like cozy games. I want to be able to kiss the farmer girl, you know?
Yeah, I do get that. And I'll find out that a lot of the romances are good. It's just like, it's weird that it's there and then doesn't have an impact on the ending. Yeah. I also think they gated some things behind a post game where I'm like, I don't entirely get why you did that.
Yeah, so we escaped the world and now we go back to it, I guess.
No, you just, like, have basically, like, a big hang-around time to do an entire sort of post-game arc before you leave.
Oh, okay, they do an Earthbound,
and
that's
it
cool.
felt... Yeah, but I sort of have this thing where I'm like, I feel these things could have been going on other than like the very final plotline thing, I'm like, I feel like they could have just been thrown in as side quests you'd be doing like during the game itself.
Yeah.
I think it's a thing where like in its interest in being having loads of content, I think it's slightly like undercut its own
It dilutes its own
storyline.
thing, yeah.
Like, I think it's just like if it was focused, I think because of it wanting to be this idea of like, oh yeah, you can just play this loads, and there's a multiplayer component that I've not checked out that might really make it like that probably encourages this side of thing. Whereas I'm like, I feel like my single player experience felt a bit unsatisfying because of how the post game felt disconnected. But this is actually the other thing why I was thinking about a game. So the fun thing is that you can fuse your two characters who are transformed in combat. You can always fuse with one of your companions. And it's a bit of a sex metaphor in some cases. And also it lets you get mashup monsters, which are always fun. And I was thinking, are there much games that do stuff with concepts of fusion?
It's like the only instance I can think of is like Interstitial has a playbook where you play as a fusion, and that's all I can think of. But that's like you just as one person playing as the fusion. You're not like two people playing together.
I see, yeah. Because what are things where you can fuse? There's your Dragon Balls, your
Steven
Universe, this. I guess the DC Comics character Firestorm is in some ways a fusion.
I thought the second guy lived in his head, but okay.
It's that... Well, I mean, their bodies are fused, though. I guess that's a difference, because, like, the Steven Universes and your Dragon Balls are like, oh yeah, you're a composite person who is kind of their own... As opposed to ones where it's like, hell yeah, this guy lives in my head now. I don't know, so would you want to do, like, the mashup person? Do you think... If you're doing this, do you think this is a big game, or do you maybe think this is, like, a free-player game locked? Like, just free players, no more. With, like, GM and two people who are...
I think... See, my brain is thinking, what if there was just, like, a slice of life, sort of a comedy game, where it's like, you are playing... Two people are playing as the fusion, and the third person's the GM. And do you have to, like, live your life? Like, the two people have decided, we love each other so much, we're going to fuse and be the same person forever. Like, get further people, also sure. And then the gameplay is like, you are trying to live life, but like, you don't always agree on stuff. And I don't know.
So I guess in this situation, it's like, you're still your individuals within this shared body.
Yeah.
And that's what the game playing is.
But again, that's Firestorm, like you're saying.
I mean, that's fine. I think it is obviously interesting because, like, I think the downside of something where you're saying people play a character together.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but also you wanting that person to be a character rather than... I think it's difficult for that not to end up being the person who talks loudest actually decides everything about what this character does.
Yes.
But also it can be a bit hard, like, what mechanics are you writing in which lessens that? Which is, I guess, why it's like, oh, if you control your own self as the voice in a head, or if things always need to be voted on, that's maybe easier. But then that separates what makes the premise.
Yeah.
I feel in some ways this... Oh, sorry?
No, I was going to say something about, like, you have to, not roll, but, like, some sort of, like, hidden choice mechanic, like playing cards or something, and it's, like, the closer your choices are together, the better your result is.
Yeah.
It's like you're in sync.
You almost go a bit newly.
Yeah. Or, like, that one game I always see on TikTok that's, like, oh, it's the colour of a sunrise, and then you have this big board of colours, and it's like, oh, well, I kind of pick orange, and it's like, yeah, you were really close to the orange that I was thinking of.
Oh, yeah, I played that game at Badger, like a game before the Queen or something. That's a bit irrelevant, but yeah. Or I've seen other things like the saying two words at the same time thing we've done before.
Yeah.
Or even... I played a board game once where it's like there's a area, like there's like a sort of two extremes, and you always need to like point to where your thing is by giving a comparison of like,
Yeah, like that, yeah.
oh, this much on this much. One thing I think what I was going to say, and maybe this is revealing of my game design tendencies, is where I was about to be like, I feel like we need to decide what like is like inverted commas about in the context of a game, because it's like, is this about relationships? That would be like the most sort of obvious one. Or is it about, I guess, that feels like a more specific game. Or is it like, I don't know, more about bodies or something? I think like that's something, at least for me, I'm like, I feel I need to decide that and then decide what every other part of this game is.
Like I'm saying, like my brain is saying codependency, like you need to be the same person. It's like you are nothing without this other person, which they do a bit in Steven Universe. But then my brain also wants to have it be about changing your body to be two people.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think when it's about codependency at some point, the end state of a game should be the end of the premise.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Which is less fun.
I mean, I don't necessarily know if it's less fun. I mean, fun for a... It's maybe less like, hell yeah, but I think that's an interesting game. I would say that, though, to be fair. I love games where they're ultimately this is about a sad relationship or whatever. I was gonna wonder if, like, I think... Obviously, it could be a bit different if you don't go the route of, like, you are merged all of the time. Like, if your game is about, like, you are two independent characters, and you can fuse at certain moments.
Yeah.
It then, I guess, becomes a bit about, like... It's still about relationships, but there, I guess, there's a focus of, like, oh, what does it mean to be, like, completely united? And, like, when is that not possible because you're actually... I feel we've not... It's just interesting. Like, I feel we've not thought of any... details here. We've talked a lot about like what this game be about, and we've talked a bit about like how you could do mechanical stuff with some element of needing to actually be in sync with each other out of character for your character. Do you have any ideas of like, you know, so like fusions in Dragon Ball lets you do a special dance. In Steven Universe it's because you're the kind of alien species that can do that. If we were making up some plot elements for this, like what would make this interesting? Because I think if you're just human, it's kind of a bit... I don't know.
Okay, idea.
I think this...
I'm just going to start saying words. Okay, you are... I don't know if you're adventurers or what, but you find a magic ring that lets you fuse bodies. And it puts together your abilities and whatever. But... I think maybe like a separate player controls the fusion, and it's like if either of the component players disagree, then the fusion stops. Maybe
that is fun. Yeah, I like the idea that like there is a moment where the fusion will break. Because
that's always the most fun part of a fusion in any of these shows. It's like, oh, can they keep it together to keep their powers strong enough for long enough? You know.
Yeah, like a sort of eject button. I guess there's a question of like, what is that player doing? Because they probably shouldn't be just the GM, but also you don't want nothing.
I think maybe it's a GM-less sort of PBTA game where like they also have maybe the fusion is like a setting element. So it's like somebody else takes the sheet, and it's like, yeah, for now I'm gonna be your Garnet.
Yeah, that I can see.
If you disagree with anything I do, take the sheet away from me.
Yeah, I was originally going to say, like, I mean, I think there's something interesting about how you can split up, like, GM to different roles. So I was going to say if someone was like, oh, well, yeah, the person who, like, introduces a setting, friendly NPCs or stuff is very different.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, either of those work. Like, yeah, if you're adventurers and you're combining and you have abilities, you imagine this is like a superhero thing, or are you just thinking it's trad fantasy where there are lots of, like, monsters and weirdos in
I think trad fantasy's boring. It's an over thing. It's an over, what do you call it, saturated market. That's the stance for Game Studio 2.
I mean, I've never cared for trad fantasy, but I know it's where you go a lot.
It's because that's where I came into RPGs, and so Games of Year 2, we will make no trad fantasy games.
If you're sure, I mean, that's fine. Whereas because I don't have an my into RPGs was absolutely not that, and then it's the fact that, like, trad fantasy is so much less popular outside of TTRPGs than it is inside of it. Like, I guess the only closest thing I can think about of, like, a genre that's super popular in one medium and then not before would be, like, superheroes before the 90s. But then...
Damn
the 90s. So...
I think it's maybe, like, a modern day either superhero or, like, a Sentai sort of thing. Yeah, fuck it. It's Power Rangers-y sort of stuff. I guess that's what the crystal gems are, huh? I
don't know if they're that Power Rangers-y, but
I
think the thing is, like, this is most fun if a combination is in and of itself compelling. Like,
yeah.
I think why Steven Universe works is obviously there's a thing of, like, oh, what do these two gems matched together look like? And that brings some images to your mind. Whereas, like, obviously Dragon Ball's one, it's not as big a part of it, and it's more when you know those characters a lot and their power levels specifically. Firestorm, it's the nature of the premise, so whatever, but, like...
Yeah, I think, like, you have really distinct, like, playbooks, so it's, like... I don't know. It's like, what happens if the jock and the nerd mix together? Yeah.
Yeah, when you said Power Rangers, my idea suddenly went to, like... You know how, like, monsters look in, like, Sentai or Toku shows a lot? Like, when they're, like, rubber suit people.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, what if that's you? Like, what if you're one of the rubber suit people? Because that's compelling when it's like, oh, yeah, the person who's a living kettle made of flame has just merged with the character who has a head of a buzzsaw. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. It's... My brain is thinking, okay, we kind of ape My Hero Academia, maybe?
I have never watched the show, so you're going to need
to... It's superhero high school stuff and everyone has weird body stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we need to ape the high school thing if we don't want to.
No.
I was just thinking, or there's something, you know, could be chemical elements or whatever. But I sort of assume this is most interesting if there is something, like, weird about you, whether that's like a weird physicality or whether it's like you have abilities that they get mashed up with. Maybe you're all fucking...
Yeah, fuck it. You are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle knockoffs.
Oh, fuck yeah, that's it. You're animal. You're mutant animals in the sewers. And you discover... And then that's so compelling because then it's like, oh, what does the giant rat mutant look like when they get mashed up with King Crocodile?
Yeah. Then you got a croco rat or whatever. It's cool. I get it,
Yeah. I was not... In my mind, I was like, I don't necessarily think, like, this is a thing that's interesting, but I don't think I'd necessarily make it. Mainly because I just didn't necessarily know if it were, like, matched up to, like, the genres I'm familiar enough with to, like, have an interesting take on it. But we've kicked it into the areas I like, and also... Now I'm like, this game could finally give me the answer to the question, do you have a game where you play as a rat?
Fine, we've done it. So I think it has to have, like, some shitty name, like Biker Mice from Mars sort of shit. Like, but ugly aliens. It's got to sound like a 90s...
I think Mash-Up is in there. Like Mash-Up, Mutant Mash-Ups.
Manhattan.
I guess it would be something like Mutant Mash-Ups of martial arts.
Martial art, Mutant Mash-Ups. I don't know.
No, I think with is the end. I think Mutant Mash-Ups is our first thing, and then the whatever there is the end. We are quite close to an end of an episode. Do you want to say what your other idea was? And then we can just...
So yeah, my other idea is an RPG where you cook Oberon the Fairy King. Thank you for listening to Game Soup.